Good afternoon. I'd like to welcome everyone to our fifth committee meeting on industrial programs. And for members and staff, I'd like to please remind you all to mute your microphone not speaking and to unmute your microphone before you start speaking. Given the virtual nature of this meeting, it is important for each committee member and the presenters to clearly state their name each time they speak for the record. I know it's repetitive, but we really need you, especially during this virtual time, to clearly speak and spell your name each time before you speak. And members, also, if you'll please wave your hand or just ask for my attention if I am not looking up at the screen to speak, that is just fine. Or you can always just send me an instant message and say, hey, I want to talk. Elections have consequences. And years ago, the citizens of the state of Nevada decided to give us term limits. And because of that, one of the members on our committee who has been with us for the first 4 meetings, Senator Parks, is no longer with us. We wish him well in his retirement from his legislative life, but I'm sure we'll see him often. But I am so happy to welcome to this committee, Senator Dennis. This will be your first and last meeting for this interim committee, so welcome to the committee. And with that, I will ask our Mr. Leiser to call the roll.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senator Dennis.
Here.
Senator Goycochea.
Here.
Assemblyman Levitt.
Here.
Mr. Aguilera.
Here.
Mr. Doty.
Here.
Ms. Levine.
Here.
Mr. Pulitz.
Here.
Mr. Saltero.
Here.
Mr. Daniels. Mr. Daniels. Ms. Williams.
Present.
And Chair Monroe Moreno.
I am present. Thank you. You can mark any other members present as they enter the meeting. I know we're still waiting on a few members that are tied up in another meeting. As soon as they join us, just mark them as present. This brings us to item number 2 on our agenda, and that is going to be public comment. If we can give our broadcast team just a few minutes to let people in, and we will allow public comment no longer than 2 minutes each. Due to the virtual nature of this meeting, and we're not able to meet in person, public comment can be sent in and comments made through calling in. Our number for call-in is 669-900-6833. And when prompted, please enter the meeting ID number, and that is 967-549-37795, and then press pound. When prompted for the ID, for participant ID, just press the pound key. You will be allowed to enter the meeting with your comments. Comments can also be submitted through email through industrial@lcb.state.nv.us, or you can send your comments to us via the mail, and that should be addressed to Fiscal Analyst Division, 401 South Carson Street, Carson City, Nevada, 89701. And I will ask our broadcast staff if we have anyone in the waiting room for public comment.
Madam Chair, the line is up and working. However, the public comment lobby is empty at this time.
Perfect. So with that, we will end the public comment for this section. There will be another at the end of the members, we're starting just a little bit later today than we had planned and anticipated. And there are a few members that have a hard stop with other appointments that they have to get to. So I will ask that we be very thorough in our comments and discussions on everything on our agenda for today, but keep it as short as possible in respect for everyone's time. So we'll move on to item 3, and that is approval of the minutes from our September 25th meeting. And I believe one of our committee members has some comments and corrections.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Senator Goycochea here. And it's the piece pertaining to the horses held at the prison ranch. And in our booklet, it's on page 9, but it's Senator Goycochea stated the prison ranch should be looking at ramping up the count of wild horses. At the end of that, it says the path forward for the management of the BLM's wild horses, which if passed would be funded at a federal level, and it says reduce, actually that would increase the number of wild horses available. And then we move on down 2 paragraphs, and it's Senator Goycochea stated that the bottom line was to see if the federal funding was available, and if available, he believed the state could, and it says receive, but actually that would be remove 10,000 horses. And then another couple paragraphs down, it talks about the cost of the path forward bill would be, and it says 100 billion, and actually that is 100 million. Those are my 3 corrections. Thank you. And if no one has anything else, I would make a motion to approve with the correction.
I'll second that motion. This is Alan Pulis.
It's been moved and second to approve the minutes from our September 25th meeting along with the corrections. Mr. Leiser, will you conduct the vote? And members, I'll ask that you say yes or no as you vote on the minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And just so the record's clear, I'm just going to repeat the revisions that are part of the motion to make sure that we have them correctly before I go through the roll call. And that was on page 9 of the minutes, page 11 of the packet. In the 5th complete paragraph down, the last sentence, we will change the word reduce to increase. On that same page, 2 paragraphs down, the second to last paragraph on this page, we will replace the word receive with remove. And on the next page, or it's page 10 of the minutes, page 12 of your meeting packet, in the second paragraph, the last sentence, we will change the 100 billion to 100 million. And those are the revisions that were identified and were included as part of the motion. So I will now call roll. Senator Dennis.
Yes.
Senator Goycochea.
Yes.
Assemblyman Levitt.
Yes.
Chairman Monroe Moreno.
Yes.
Mr. Aguilera.
Yes.
Mr. Daniels. Mr. Doty.
Yes.
Ms. Levine.
Yes.
Mr. Pulitz.
Yes.
Mr. Saltero.
Yes.
Ms. Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Leiser. That brings us up to the 4th item on our agenda, which is a status report on the outstanding debts that are owed to the prison industries. And Staff, can you let us know, have Prison Industries been able to join the meeting?
Madam Chair, as Deputy Director Quenga, I've just got onto the meeting and I apologize. Can you hear me?
You're moving extremely fast, sir. We appreciate that. It's good to see you. And I will let you know, you probably were not on earlier when I made the statement. There are a number of members that are joining us today that have other obligations and would have to have a hard stop no later than 3:30. So I'll ask that we be thorough in our discussion, but be kind of quick as well, especially since we got a late start.
Yes, Madam Chair, Deputy Director Quenga, I apologize for the delay. I got tied up with the director in a COVID task force meeting. A lot of public comment and a lot of answers I had to come up with. So again, I apologize. Director Daniels is still in the meeting as we speak. We started since 10 this morning. Therefore, if you're ready, we can move forward with the aging schedule. I can have Jackie Cooper, who is our acting ASO. And also, if you can see clear behind me against the wall there, we have our new ASO who just started on Monday, Mr. Jeffrey Doucet. He will be taking the place of Ms. Diane Dastel, who retired. So he's on board this week. It was a long process getting him filled with this budget shortfall and JTF's justification to fill positions. So again, I've got Mr. Doucet, who is learning, and I brought him in. Also have here Mr. Ed Mason, who is a correctional officer at Northern Nevada Correctional Center, but he's sitting in for our PI Supervisor 2 at NNCC, who has since left us and transferred over to the Division of Forestry. So I have them in attendance with me in my office, and I'll turn it over to Jackie so we can get keep it moving. Thank you, Madam Chair.
So much.
Hi, this is Jackie Cooper, acting ASO for Prison Industries. We have in our packet the aging report for accounts receivable.
Madam Chair, can you hear us okay?
I am having a little difficulty hearing. I'm not sure about the other members on the.
Okay, again, this is Jackie Cooper, acting ASO for Prison Industries. In our packet, we have the aging report for accounts receivable. And that is on page 15 of the packet. Currently, our receivable aging balance is at $733,780.99. Okay, of our accounts that are 90 days or over, we have for Nicholas Dunhill, he's our auto customer that has been paid. We also have WorkNet, he's over 90 days, and that $2,020 that has been paid. Also for Joseph Manzo, it's an auto customer that is still in the works, but he is paying on that. Also Terry Ocha is also making payments. We do still have the vehicle.
For the record, Madam Chair, as Deputy Director Klinga, of the outstanding values that we see, majority of this since we pulled this report and looking at the report, majority of these, all these debts that you see, with the exception of the vehicles from Southern Desert, those are new invoices coming out for vehicles with added repairs. We still have the vehicles in possession and working with them to continue to make those payments prior to the vehicle being and paid for upon completion. But everything else that's on this aging report has been paid for, going forward from the last report to current. I'm open for any questions if anyone has questions.
Thank you. Members, are there any questions on this report? Okay, hearing none, then we will move on to item number 5 on our agenda, which is a review of the number of inmates that have worked July 2017 through September of 2020. And I'll ask the department to review the number of the inmates. And you were just in that COVID meeting with the governor's office. If you'll also let us know how COVID has impacted the number of inmates that have been able to work.
For the record, Deputy Director Klinga, speaking on behalf of the COVID pandemic, it has affected prison industries, but has not impacted us as bad as I expected. We had some shutdowns at High Desert State Prison, approximately 2 weeks, probably a month apart, because of inmates coming up positive with a work crew at High Desert State Prison with DMD card sorting, and the hanger sorting operation. They just opened up again yesterday over at High Desert, Southern Desert. They just got workers again yesterday. We brought all wire in, start off with 5 workers up to 20. And as soon as we were going in for about 2 weeks, we just shut it down, going back 2 weeks from yesterday. We just brought the inmates back. Northern Nevada Correctional Center has impacted us, all our operations, which is one of our biggest operations. Furniture, mattress, metal, print, and embroidery. We have not had inmates up there coming up to almost 3 weeks, as we had inmates who were coming up positive. Workers unit. I'm talking with the medical director for the Department of Corrections. I've spoken with him, and the attending physician at NNCC is looking at those. It's been the time span required by CDC in our COVID-19 protocol. They're looking to see them. It's been 10 days. If they've been symptom-free, asymptomatic for 72 hours within a 10-day period, and they're looking to clear them and bring them back to work. They will be in PPE along with staff as it is enforced, and we are required to have PPEs. Staff members were in 95s. Lovelock Correctional Center, they are still in operation. They had a hiccup up there for a couple days, but they're still in operation, moving and still producing protective PPE statewide and with the department and private sector outside. So all those shops are moving. High Desert, I would say Southern Desert was probably the most impacted down there with all wire and then the auto restoration. And then we'll probably see an impact at Northern Nevada Correctional Center. We have reached out to our customers, private entities and government entities, and advising them of that. So hopefully we'll be back in operation Monday. Once I get clearance, hopefully tomorrow from the medical division. So we can bring the workers back, and we're geared up to have our officers back as they utilize our officers from prison industries on the yard at NNCC, as we have such a staff shortage with quarantine and isolation. So they're working with the institution. We should have them back Monday to start operation and working. I'll turn it over to Jackie Cooper and going over the number of offenders working.
For the record, this is Jackie Cooper, acting ASO for Prison Industries. As you can see on the report for fiscal year 17, we had a total of 465 inmates working, which is 3.3% of our total population of 14. Excuse me, 14,096. Moving on to fiscal year 18, we had a total of 494 inmates working with a total population of 13,805, which again was 3.6% of the total population. In fiscal year 19, excuse me, in fiscal year 19, we had a total of 530 inmates working, which is 3.9% of our total population of 13,699. In fiscal year 20, we had 591 inmates working, which is 4.6% of our total population of 12,967. And for the first 3 months of fiscal year 21, we have 483 inmates working, which is 4.1% of our total population of 11,933.
For the record, Deputy Director Quang again to chair the committee. I forgot to mention also Erickson Trust. We have a contract with up in the north. They pulls inmate workers from Stewart Conservation Camp, which we have that contract in over a year now, almost 2 years. Building wooden trusses in Reno. That operation has been shut down since March, as we restricted all non-NDOC and inmate workers going out in the community, such as buildings and grounds. So that operation has shut down. So there's a loss of revenue there at this time. And we're hoping that with the vaccination and moving forward, that we can turn this around hopefully sometime soon. But I wanted to mention that to the committee.
Thank you for that. Members, are there any questions on item number 5 on our agenda?
Madam Chair, this is Senator Dennis.
Go ahead.
It's been a while since I served on this committee. Can you remind me what limits our ability to increase that percentage of offender population? Is it just not enough staff or not enough offenders that qualify to do that kind of a program?
For the record, Deputy Director Quang, what limits us is basically the classification process within the facility, depending on the classification of and the security level of the facility. That kind of holds us back on how many inmates are allowed to go work. Out in the community, we have camp like Stewart Camp, for example, which I'm working on. We have a lot of inmates that are sitting over the camp that have medical holds, but they're at a minimum custody, so they're going to get their time on their sentence. But we're looking at trying to come up with a plan to how we can move those inmates somewhere where they have to be close as a medical, when they have a medical hold, they have to be close to medical care. But that is a working camp, and we're trying to change that. But with COVID restrictions right now, we are trying to limit as much movement of our offenders around the state to go ahead and mitigate and reduce the spread of the virus. Now, all the institutions, I spoke with the wardens, they're all pro-prison industries. I've been working with them closely, and our goal is to put as many offenders to work in our programs, but just the caliber of inmates getting in now, a lot of them don't even want to work. A lot of them won't want to come to work because they're getting money from the outside, or they don't like the housing unit. They want to be in a certain unit with their whatever their member affiliation out there within the yard. But we are actively seeking, working with classification within the institutions, putting out job announcements and moving forward and trying to train, because we like to train and be flexible. So we have a welder or a sawyer in our carpenter shop. We always try to backfill our AutoCAD program in the wood shop and metal shop. We're always trying to backfill, but always the supervisors always try to recruit. The process for classification for some of these inmates coming through the program, we're looking, because we have to be real cautious of where the facility is placed at, possible escapes. If they had any staff assaultive, so we have to really vet that, and the classification committee does that, which is comprised of the warden, associate warden, a caseworker, and a designee that the warden can choose to select these. But they have to meet the classification criteria for that institution, for that security level. I hope I answered your question, Senator.
You did. I just was trying to check to see if there was anything that on our part that we needed to do that would help streamline it, if there was the ability to increase that. It sounds like there possibly are some things there, but there are other things that we can't do a whole lot about. If they don't want to work, that's, they don't want to work. But if there are ones that want to work, and it was just a procedural thing that we needed to maybe make some changes, I just was trying to get a feel for that. So I appreciate the response. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Are there any other members with questions on this agenda item? Okay, seeing none, we will move on to item number 6 on our agenda, and that will be page 25 in your meeting packet. And if the department would give us a review on the deductions from inmate wages for room and board, and the Prison Industry Capital Improvement Fund, and the Victim of Crime Fund for FY 19, 20, and 21.
Okay. Starting with fiscal year 19. Oh, for the record, this is Jackie Cooper, acting ASO for Prison Industries. Okay, starting with fiscal year 2019, our total room and board that was added back into that was contributed, was 364,900. Our victims of crime was 74,292. The funds that went back to our CIP fund was 74,292, for a total contribution of 13,485 for fiscal year 19. Moving on to fiscal year 20, room board total 336.
Madam Chair, sorry to interrupt. This is Brody Lizer. We're having a real hard time hearing Ms. Cooper and being able to pick her up on our audio. Which, as you know, records the meeting. And so I apologize for interrupting. And I know that they are in tight quarters there, but if there's any way we could have Ms. Cooper direct her testimony to the microphone, I think it may help with recording the meeting.
No need to apologize for the interruption. We definitely want to make sure the record is clear. It's their way to, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ms. Cooper.
Okay.
Maybe if you're sitting now, we'll have better.
Okay. Starting with fiscal year 2019, our room and board contribution was 364,900. Contribution from victims of crime was 74,292. Our contribution into the CIP fund was 74,292, for a total contribution of 13,485. I'm sorry. Our total was contribution was 513,485. That was for fiscal year 19. For fiscal year 20, our contributions for room and board from inmate wages was 336,329. For the Victims of Crime Fund and the CIP was 68,639. For a total contribution of 473,608. For fiscal year 21, so far the contributions have been for room and board 134,925. For victims of crime and the CIP, 27,681,000, for a total of 190,287. Do I have any questions?
Members, do you have any questions on the report on the inmates room and board, the Victims Crime Fund, or the capital improvement funds as presented in this report?
Madam Chair, if I could see it for the record. Now, the decline we saw between 19 and 20 is approximately, it's 40,000 or more. And yet none of that has really contributed to Marcy's Law, correct?
For the record, Deputy Director Quenga, we enacted Marcy's Law, I believe it was October 1st, I believe it was. But since that has gone in, we have had a meeting with the Board of Prison Commissioners. Everything has been stopped at a halt because we had a lot of advocates coming up saying that the percentage on the new administrative regulation that we proposed to the Board of Prison Commissioners went from 50% to 90%. And with Marcy's Law, it states on there that the victims will be paid and paid first. So I do not have those figures that would have to come from inmate banking as to how they're distributed. But with Marcy's Law, it takes precedence over everything. So we are going to see a reduction in room and board, victims' crimes, and PI count as Marcy's Law takes over, depending on what the court and what the inmate has as far as victims' crimes restitution that he owes. All that has to be satisfied, and there's a sorry for the term, pecking order where who's first, second, and third as far as deductions. We are kind of being pushed. These deductions are being pushed down so that the victims of crime can get their restitution paid back, and it has to be paid back immediately. But as of now, Marcy's Law is on hold until the next Board of Prison Commissioners hearing. We also have a meeting with Senator Neal in regards to a bill draft request that we put in regarding Marcy's Law and deductions, and I believe it's going to be turning over to Senate Bill 22. So I'm kind of keeping an eye on that. So Marcy's Law is on hold right now. It came in for about a month, close to a month, and then it got stopped.
Thank you, Mr. Quenga. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator Gocochea, for the answer. Members, any other questions? Okay, seeing none, then that will move us on to item number 7 on the agenda. And unfortunately, there is no material in your packet. The financial statements were not received. I believe there were technical difficulties on the prison's end, but I would like to ask the department to briefly explain where they are at being able to produce the financial statements and to comment on areas of impacts experienced to the individual industrial programs. So,
for the record, Deputy Director Quenga, and I apologize, Madam Chair, and to the committee members for not providing the report. We had some glitches in the program. We were using a program called SIMA and working with Advantage. That program is a private program that we have used for years, and apparently it wasn't through, I spoke with the director about this. We had some issues within our IT division. A lot of people leaving and all that. We never had it. They couldn't upgrade it, didn't upgrade it. What's happening as Ms. Cooper was performing the task of pulling up the financials, what we noticed was that it was pulling up data from way back when we had Somerset Foods canning up in Lovelock, which fell back in like early 90s or late 90s. And information was crossing over. And with COVID-19, we've been getting in touch with some of the representatives. It was hard to get them because a lot of people working from home. We didn't get responses. Kept going and tried to put it together. As Ms. Cooper was putting it together, the numbers just did not seem right. And I agreed with her and chose to let Brody, Mr. Leiser know, and Mr. Speed know that I could not send them what we had because it is just incorrect information. I will not provide the committee with inaccurate information, and that we are working on it. And we just got the server redone and an upgrade, working with our IT division. Ms. Cooper and Mr. Doucet is working with the representative from SIMA. We're hoping we can get this up within the next 2 weeks to get the proper information and sort out this data and some of the old data that was crossing into with the version. However, talking about that, all the shops are keeping track as far as all our supervisors within the facilities that run a cost center. They have a computer program within their facilities in their program to track as we give them their starting budget for the beginning of the fiscal year. They're tracking all the ledgers and all their expenditures to ensure that they are not overspending and keeping track of their budget to stay within their budget and maintain profitability. We still can get our budget status report from one of our other account techs that sends it out that shows all the expenditures and what has been covered. And so that's kind of helping us right now in the Southern Desert. I know there's a loss in that shop. The last hearing that we had, prior to that hearing, we were approximately 80,000 in loss. Since I implemented some new procedures, administrative procedures in their operational procedures, the last meeting we dropped it down to approximately, I believe, 50,000. And as I also presented to the committee of what our plan is to become profitable, have strong retained earnings, I do not have that scope or that picture of where they're at now, but we're keeping an eye on that shop. And with it being closed down too, it's kind of affecting us there. But as soon as we get these financials put together, I will ensure that we contact the LCD analyst, Brody and Mr. Speed, and get that to them immediately and see if we can share that with the committee. Again, I apologize for not providing that, Madam Chair and committee.
But we do understand that computer things happen. And as I said, the onset of this meeting, as we live through COVID, we are learning to make adjustments. So as soon as you have that report available and you could forward that to our staff and staff can get it out to the committee members, that would be great. Members, do you have any question on the presentation on this agenda item? As limited as it is, but there still may be questions. Okay, seeing none, we will move on to item 8 on our agenda, which you'll find on page 27 of your meeting packet. And for members, I'll just remind you that NRS 209.461 requires that the director report to the committee explaining the reasons for a program's net loss. If that program experiences a loss for 2 consecutive years, and that the director take appropriate steps to eliminate losses if the losses occur for 3 consecutive years. The department has kept this committee apprised of the challenges in the auto and upholstery shop throughout this entire interim and has provided testimony on the shop's net loss, as well as efforts taken by the agency to ensure that the industry can turn a profit. In response to questions from our September 25th meeting, the agency provided a written response summarizing the reasons for the program's losses, as well as its plans to generate a profit. That response you'll find included in the packet material for today. So I'd like to ask the department to just give us a brief recap of its report on the losses experienced in the auto and upholstery shop.
Madam Chair, sorry, I was muted. Deputy Director Coinga. So talking about this, we've had many challenges there, and through the years with that shop, it's been quite hard to find staff to work out there. That position was open for almost 10 years out there, industry supervisor too. Prior to me taking over as a deputy director, my predecessors had the marketing coordinator for the southern region sit in that shop through the last 10 years. After going in there and we hired one as of last year, September, I hired a new supervisor, brought him in, and then he had resigned right around July, August of this year due to some issues, safety and security. So he tendered his resignation. And since then, I have been scouting and going around, and I just selected the candidate as of last week for the new prison industry supervisor to come in, interviewed 2 candidates. As it's hard to get people as that facility, with Indian Springs, it's approximately a 45 minute drive from downtown Las Vegas. So it makes it for a long drive. A lot of people don't want to go in and back and forth with that commute. even though we have on a 410 shift. So we have a new supervisor. I'm hoping he's going to be starting here in the new pay period. He has passed his background check moving forward. Some of the issues that were occurring in that shop were invoices. So after going there and looking and dissecting what is going on, why are we not generating revenue? We have a lot of work. We have a long list of customers that are willing and ready to bring their vehicles in. So in looking at that, I had to look in, and they weren't properly invoicing. Some of the quotes that were going out were inaccurate. They weren't getting them time. They weren't even keeping track of the waiting list. So since then, we've cleaned up that waiting list, and we're advising customers now with COVID that it's going to be a while, things have stopped, and that we will get with them and continuing. Customers are still calling. In the invoicing process, what was happening is they would bring a vehicle in if they had upholstery, electrical, and body work to be done. What they were doing was invoicing at the end of the job. Well, we've always had them put a 50% deposit. So what I have implemented is that if 50% deposit comes down, we get with the customer, the supervisor talks with the customer, say, we completed the electrical part. That was one quote. So we're breaking the quotes down in different areas, from electrical to body and then upholstery. So as we complete the electrical, we invoice them for that. We take that money out and we show it as revenue. When we go through and we do the upholstery, that's completed. We invoice that. We grab the revenue out of the deposit. Whatever's left, and we come through, the remainder is due at the time of prior to pickup. They have to make arrangements to make payment in full. They'll come out and inspect the vehicle, and then they can sign off and take it from there. So by not processing and invoicing these jobs through, the job could take a year, and full restoration, auto restorations could take up to 2 years. So here we are, just laying out all this, running the money, all the capital to get these vehicles done, from the body to the labor and raw materials, and we're just pushing that money out, and we're not capturing anything coming in. So by instituting where we invoice as we go, as we complete sections of that job, we should be able to recognize that revenue coming in. So there's a stream of revenue coming in as we go, and not wait till a year or 2 years later, which is just draining our funds. And so it will show us at a loss. So hoping by doing that, that would change that. You know, we'll be keeping an eye. The other thing I've gone into is also in reanalyzing shop overheads. So looking at the shop overheads, we were way underpricing ourselves. They made a change probably, the last time they did a shop overhead change was probably over 5 years ago. So I looked at the shop overheads to see, and a lot of the shop overheads, they weren't accurately charged on there to recoup some of this. A lot of the money was going out. So after looking, I had to raise the overheads up to $22 more an hour, which we're still competitive with the private sector. We're not quite as high because these guys are also training in there, and we do great work in there. I'll tell you, some of the cars, if you guys have been to that facility, they turn out some just outstanding vehicles that are just show quality. But in changing the overheads on that, now that I have Mr. Jeffrey Doucet working with us, I have already spoke with them into looking at, and we're going to do that with every shop. We need to look at all our shops. We need to review our overheads annually or quarterly and look at it. And we need to be more proactive into looking from our fiscal side, working with the shop supervisors, no matter what shop it is. In that quarter, in that first month, we need to know, are they losing? And each shop should know what their fixed expenditures are per month. How much revenue do they got to generate to come in to cover their operating costs per month, just to turn the lights on. So they need to cover that cost and generate more revenue to offset that loss so that they become profitable and have strong retained earnings. But we have to be more proactive into all our operations and not wait till we report to the committee and say we're at a loss. I would like to see the new ASO, and we have spoken, he will not be a desk jockey. He will be going out to each facility and traveling with, permitting with COVID, but working with the supervisors, seeing how they're quoting, how are they invoicing, how are they generating their weekly reports and monthly reports. We need to get a handle of this, get more proactive, rather than waiting till we compile all these reports. Then I report to the committee and say, we're at a loss. Sorry about that. I want to be more proactive. We need to get out there and I travel around the state, go to the shops. So I'm a hands-on person. So, but I'm only one person. Now that I've got Mr. Doucet here, he can cover the south and I cover the north. We can meet and switch and go around. So we want to be more proactive because these programs are very important. I understand we have to have strong retained earnings, but also in history, we had our drapery factory at Ely State Prison. It was at a constant loss in my career as a supervisor. I was watching that I was in charge of that shop. I was with metal mattresses or metal furniture. But some of the things is at least we're giving the inmates a stepping stone in our maximum facility at that time. So it wasn't just about the dollar. It's about providing something in the facility so these guys can get skills so they can better themselves. And if they're in a higher level custody, they have something to look forward to change their behavior and say, hey, I want to change my behavior. I want to work in PI. So that reduces their what do you call it? Any corrective action that they get through and write-ups, notice of charges within the institution. Their numbers go down. They can qualify to work in prison industries, gain skill, and it's amazing. Once they have that opportunity and they start earning a wage, which is not much, but it's something that they can provide for themselves or their family, it gives them just the positive of, hey, I can do this, I can work, I can earn a wage. This is not bad. I want to change this, and when I get out, I want to do this. So with that said, I know we have to retain, and we're going to change that within our operations. And I'm looking forward to continuing to work hard at this with the new ASO so that we can keep our operations strong and be more proactive and not wait till we get to the end of the quarter and then realize that that's where we're at. We need to know where we're at every month and prior to going to the committee. And I hope that answers your question, Madam Chair.
Well, thank you for that report. That does answer the question. And I'm excited to hear that there's a new plan going forward to get a better idea of where you're at month to month. So you're better able to adjust and address those issues. Members, any questions or comment on the report on this agenda item? All right, seeing none. Thank you, Mr. Cuenca, on that. That will move us on to item number 9 on our agenda, and that is page 31 in your meeting packet. And if the department could provide status of the fund for the new construction of facilities for prison industries.
For the record, this is Jackie Cooper, acting as ASO for prison industries. So our funds for construction goes from fiscal year 17. We had a beginning balance of $303,821. We had inmate wage assessments of $65,161, and interest income of $272,725. Our total revenue was then $67,893, and our ending balance was $371,715. And then in fiscal year 18, we had inmate wage assessments of $66,219, interest income of $5,688, for a total revenue of $71,907, and our ending balance was $443,622. For fiscal year 19, we had inmate wage assessments of $74,292, interest income of $9,085, for a total revenue of $83,378. We had expenditures of $181,235, and that was for equipment for the shops. All right, so our ending balance was $345,765. And in fiscal year 20, we had inmate wages of $68,547, interest income of $7,483, total revenue of $76,033. $31. We also had expenditures of $118,070. So our ending balance was $303,727. The $118,070 was for equipment for the shops, mostly for the garment shop. And that the garment shop we just purchased equipment for the garment shop, new sewing machines, and the other was for the other part was $52,000 that we spent for the dairy for a new milk pouching machine. Fiscal year 21, we have inmate wage assessments for the first 3 months of $14,966. We have interest income of $1,842 for a total revenue of $16,808. Our ending balance so far is $320,535.
Thank you, Ms. Cooper. Members, any questions for Ms. Cooper or Mr. Cuenca on this report? Senator Gocochea, your mic was unmuted. I thought you might have something to say.
I probably just pushed the space button by accident. I'm sorry.
All right. Okay.
Madam Chair, if I may also add, going back to all the financials and also with our funds available for construction, if I may add that since this last special session, I just want the committee to be aware that as of our budget for 3719 for our prison industries section, that they pulled out $250,000 out of our retained earnings to.
Mr. Cuenca, can I ask you just to speak up just a little bit? I'm having trouble. I don't know if the other members are.
For the record, Deputy Director Cuenca, I just wanted to add that as of the last special session with all the budget cuts and reductions, that budget 3917, which is our prison industries fund, that they took out $250,000 out of our retained earnings. And in our ranch program, which is 3727 budget account, they took out $350,000 out of our retained earnings. So I just want the committee to be aware that that will also impact us on our operations and our financials.
Thank you for that update on those budget reductions. Members, after hearing that, any questions or comments? Okay. Seeing none, then that brings us up to the next item on our agenda, item number 10. And I think you mentioned a little bit earlier in your presentation, Mr. Cuenca, but at this time, at our last meeting, Allwire had just begun its operation, employing 5 inmates at that time, whereas Inc to Work had yet to implement its operations. Could you provide us with an update on the status of approving and implementing inmate employment opportunities with both of these two industries?
For the record, Deputy Director Cuenca, in regards to Allwire, we had them start moving in at the end of September, and then right about mid-October, after getting their equipment up, Allwire is very excited, and we could have moved in sooner, but with COVID, everything was stopped. In talking with our director and with the wards, we came up with a plan of how we can get them moved in to start up operations, and it worked. So mid-October, we started working with them, bringing it in. We started off with 5 inmates, and then within a couple weeks, they started calling me and saying, boy, we underestimated. These guys are learning real fast. We need to ramp it up. So we were trying to get them, and we were from 5 inmates for moving on each week to get them classified. And as I've mentioned earlier in my testimony, that getting inmates to be classified, and one of the issues that I caught that could have been an issue at the Southern Desert Correctional Facility regarding all wire. So all wire is based in there. We have a 20,000 square foot sprung building in there, and then we have our auto shop. So being careful and with safety and security, a lot of the work that was out on the yard was a lot of inmates were not going to work for Prison Industries. They were going to work till All Wire came in, as All Wire is a certified program. So they pay certified wages, which is a 10% percentile of prevailing wage for that geographical location for that occupational code. So trying to maintain that and not cause any kind of tension amongst the inmates working in Prison Industries. We started getting lists from the yard of inmates, and I got the word out. Nobody from the yard who is not currently employed with Prison Industries will go directly to work for All Wire. That would not be fair. That would cause issues within the prison system. So what I've done is I've had this acting supervisor screen who we had within our auto operation and our card sorting operation, making sure that we can still maintain operations with our auto and card sorting. So we chose them very wisely, gave them the opportunity, and we're slowly integrating and selecting these inmates that are working in our existing industry to go to All Wire, and then bringing in others prior to setting them, backfilling that to train them to work in our auto. And then we're watching their work ethic. We want to see if they're working, because we do not want inmates just to come into Prison Industries just to make money. You're not there just to earn a wage. You're in there to learn a skill. You're in there to change your behavior, and you're in there to get work skill and try to get marketable skills. So upon release, you can be a productive citizen in our community and not come back to reduce recidivism. So that's what I have. And so all wires up to 20. They're looking to get more. I'm working with the acting supervisor and working with classification, and had conversations with the warden and the associate warden programs. They're working on it. But with COVID right now, we have to be very careful because it's surging up. A lot of the inmates are coming positive. Hopefully here within the next week, we can get some more inmates on the list that we can interview so that we can bring them in, train them, and then move some over to All Wire. So we're trying to maintain that contract and keep All Wire afloat over there too, so they can produce product. Their products, mainly, the biggest customer is here in Henderson, Nevada. So it's great for them to produce these electronic circuitry panels. They're really high dollar, and these inmates are getting great training. They can make anywhere from 60 to 90 to 100,000 if they went to Silicon Valley or work for Panasonic or any other electronic manufacturing out there. So it gives them great skill. They earn a great wage. Moving on to ink to work. I've had conversations, as we had in the past, in my past testimony in the previous hearings, talked about ink to work. They're coming in and wanting to work, 10, 12 inmates. And then they came back and said, no, we only want to do 2. We want to do distribution. And I advise the committee that that's not our mission, and that's not what we're going to do. We are going to employ as many inmates as we can in that program and develop skills. So they since have, just a couple weeks ago, I spoke with Mr. Heber and his new assistant, and what they've done, we've talked, and so they want to, now they've changed. So we have tested their ink cartridges, and they are absolutely just quality. I mean, I've used them. We had some staff members here at Casa Grande and even in Northern Nevada using these refills. They are superb quality, nothing like some of the ones I've seen out in the market. So he has given me a proposal. I have that proposal that I need to review before I present it to committee. It seems like a good proposal to employ more inmates. Now we're looking at possibly putting it up at Northern Nevada Correctional Center. Since the warehouse is right out there, being in Carson City, it's much easier accessible for UPS and FedEx to drop off and pick up orders at our warehouse, since we are within the town. Whereas in Southern Desert, they're 45 minutes out of the way, going in the warehouse. So it would not work for them logistically, and it would not be profitable for both of us. So I'm going to look at the proposal. I'll report back to the committee, and hopefully we can get them going up at NNCC and employing inmates up there. But hopefully we get this going with this pandemic going on. It puts a roadblock on certain things, but I look beyond that and try to think beyond that. So when we do get to that point and we open up, we've got to be ready. I do not want to wait until the pandemic's gone or quells down, and then all of a sudden we're ready to go and we don't have a plan. So I'm trying to put a plan together to be proactive on that to get this company in as soon as this pandemic kind of eases up where we get more inmates. I'm open for any questions, Madam Chair.
Well, I thank you for that report. And I understand the reasoning for wanting to make the location in Northern Nevada because of the convenience. But what I'm hearing and the information that I have could be wrong, you can correct me, that our COVID numbers are higher at that location in Carson City than at the facility in the South. So perhaps as you look at making plans, make a plan for both. So because we don't know how long we're going to be dealing with COVID, but if there's a way to get Ink to Work up and running, even if it's the distance isn't as convenient in the South, but we could get it up and running in the South so we can get inmates to work. Perhaps we start there and then make the move to Northern Nevada when our COVID numbers are in a better position, or maybe even have 2 locations. I don't know if that's a possibility, but just a thought. Members? Okay, see no one else with a question or a comment?
Madam Chair, Deputy Director Quinn, I'd like to comment on that also with our Southern Desert facility. We are pretty much at capacity. When Ink to Work came to us and we start talking and negotiations, and then All Water came up, the 20,000 square foot facility that we had, the Sprung building, we had a portion of that that was supposed to be utilized and leased, rented out by Ink to Work. So with COVID and all that and the amount of inmates working, we are at capacity with part sorting, auto restoration, and with All Water at Southern Desert. However, I will look and see, we have one more bay available up at High Desert State Prison. I believe we have about 10 to 10,000 square foot. I don't know if they'll be utilizing that whole thing, but I will also look into that, see if we can get that there as well as in NCC as you have recommended. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Fuego, for that. I truly appreciate it. I see no other members with comments or questions on that agenda item. And that brings us up to the last item on our agenda, which is the second portion for public comment. And I will ask our broadcast production staff to check and see if there's anyone in the waiting room. Give a few minutes for anyone that would like to make public comment.
Hello, Madam Chair. If you don't mind, if we take a 2-minute quick break to give people a moment to call in.
That would be great. Thank you.
Thank you,
Our
Madam
broadcast
Chair.
staff? Yes.
The line is open and working. However, there are still no callers. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So before we adjourn this meeting, this will most likely be the last meeting for our committee during this interim. And I would like just to take this opportunity to thank all of the members, the NDOC staff, the LCB staff, and the public for their participation. This has been an interesting interim where we were only able to gather together once in person, and we've been able to continue the work virtually. And I thank you all for your patience with me, with your patience with the system and all of the glitches. And I want to wish you all happy holidays, happy, safe, and healthy holidays. And with that, I will take a motion to adjourn.
This is Bruce Aguilar. I'll make a motion to adjourn, and I will second your holiday wishes for everyone as well.
Thank you.
This is Beverly Williams. I will do a second, and happy holidays to everyone.
Thank you both. And thank you, everyone. Mr. Quenga, you get a break. No more meetings for the day, hopefully for you. All right.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and members of the committee for your patience. I totally apologize for the financials. Everyone have a happy holiday and look forward to seeing you guys the next time we can meet again. Be
Sounds
safe.
good. Bye-bye.
Great. Thank you very much, Ms. Chairwoman.
Happy holidays.